in from Sequatchie County, this is a good place to grow up, and you get very attached here, and it's tough for our young folks to go off and be away from home. But it's something you really need to do in life. You need to have that experience. You need to go through it. Well, my part in the monument, as far as the preparation and so forth, I was actually approached by a small group of veterans. Primarily Tommy Hickey was the lead point person on that committee, and they asked me to serve on this committee, basically because I'm the superintendent of schools and have some influence on where this memorial will be placed. And they liked for the memorial to be placed on the main highway, accessible by the public and obviously the school system too. And that piece of property they were interested in is right here on the corner of Cordell Lane and Highway 28. So Tommy Hickey, Mr. Hickey, came before the school board a couple of times, and in the end it was my recommendation, and the board really didn't have any problem with that. And so that's how they acquired the property to build the memorial on. First of all, it is educational, and that was a plus, and it's accessible, and that was the second point. So that's basically my involvement is securing the property for which to put it on, and being a member of the board, setting forth the qualifications, and being a part of the plan as it unfolded.
This is a Marine Corps fighter jet that's been placed at the Sequatchie County War Memorial, Veterans Memorial. It'll be placed on in the future they're going to move it and place it on a pedestal behind the actual memorial, about 10 feet above the ground.
Well, we've been in this process, I guess, a couple of years, and I guess the seed was planted about 3 years ago. The idea for the memorial came from, like I said, a small group of veterans, and their spokesperson was Tommy Hickey. We don't really want it to be a recreational park. It's to be a memorial park. We have some things that are coming as far as displays. We have an APC armored personnel carrier that will be displayed. We hope to get some type of artillery piece, maybe a 155. And believe it or not, the hardest thing that we're really having difficulty with is locating a helicopter. I thought the most difficult piece would be what we got down there now, which is the A4 Marine jet. I thought that would be virtually impossible, but it was one of the first things we got, and we can think we have an individual who was retired from the Navy, Commander Miller, and he still flies the airline, so he's around a lot, and he's able to make these contacts for us. Randy Miller. But we're still, so if anybody out there, through your contacts, by putting the word out, we are looking for a helicopter. We're also trying to secure a ship's anchor. The park, you might mention it, it is under surveillance. We've had some trouble with four-wheelers and skateboarders. So hopefully, we don't want to put up any type of fence, because we don't want it to look like a prison system or anything, right. But we also got to make sure these folks, and we're currently in the process of putting signs up to keep off the skateboarders and all that sort of thing, four-wheelers. I see people down there just about all hours of the day coming in. We do have a couple of benches down there because we have a lot of older veterans that, I mean, they can get to the wall, but now they can actually sit down. It's not intended to be a place to loiter.
Right.
It's not intended to be a place that you park your car. It's not a carpooling place to park your car. And hopefully in the future we'll be able to do some things down here on Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And not that we want to discount any activities that go on at the courthouse. We'll continue to do those. But all those KIAs that are listed at the courthouse are also listed down here also on this memorial. Well, that's the philosophy. That's my personal philosophy, but now that might not be somebody else's philosophy. But we really can't expand too much because it's school property. I went through Quantico, Virginia through officer training in the Marine Corps, and they just, several years ago, I went up and helped dedicate a Marine Corps museum, probably one of the best military museums I've ever been in. But yet, they have a Semper Fidelis walk, and in that walk, I have a brick, which recognizes my service during the Marine Corps. Well, that's something that my great-grandchildren, if I'm fortunate enough to have any, will be able to go. Maybe once in a lifetime they'll be able to go there and walk that walk and see one of their ancestors.
Right.
And I see that as being somewhat similar right here. You'll have people coming from all over the country, and we'll pull in here and we'll go in there and see, well, we know there's my great-grandfather, or that was my uncle. Or now in the later wars, that was my aunt, because we also have several women beginning with Vietnam and coming forward. I retired my highest rank, so I'll be captain.
Okay.
As far as retirement purposes. Yeah. I occupied a slot. When I retired from the Tennessee National Guard, I was actually holding a CW5 slot, which is only about 2 or 3 of those in the state of Tennessee. And that would be comparable to something just below a lieutenant colonel, if you were comparing to the field grade ranks. So. But it was, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my flight time. I was primarily helicopters, rotary aircraft. I loved it. I love flying helicopters. It's just fascinating to me. Raised on a farm, I used to watch hummingbirds. You know, they can fly anyway, backwards, sideways. I always thought I'd love to do that. And I found out I could. I do have some fixed wing time. I've flown T-34s, but primarily it's been rotary, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So. And I also have a commercial license also.
Here you have the seals of all the branches of the military. You have the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, and the center of the Army. Here you have what's called the fallen soldier grave marker, commonly used by putting the M16 into the ground with the bayonet. The soldier's Kevlar on top, his boots, and his dog tags. This is a Marine Corps Mighty Mac Jeep. It's a 1960s model, full aluminum body. It's also here at the Sequatchie Valley Veterans Memorial.
Well, it started from one of the Vietnam veterans, Tommy Hickey, had come in to pay a bill, and I said, "Don't leave, I need to talk to you." And he said, "Okay." And then he paid his bill, and I did whatever I was doing, and I said, he goes, "Yeah, what'd you need?" And I said, "We need a memorial." And he kind of looked at me and he goes, "You're not going to believe this, but I was going to talk to you about it, but you were busy." And it was like back when I got elected. It was shortly after, so I mean it's been almost 3 years. And Mr. Hickey said, "Well, what's your thoughts?" And whenever I began to tell him my thoughts, he said, "But where are we going to put it?" And I said, "Get in my car." So we drove down the road, and I pointed at the property, and he goes, "You own that?" And I said, No. He said, "I mean the city owns that." I said, "No." He goes, "Well, how are we going to put it there?" I said, "The school owns it." So he said, "Oh," and I said, "Yeah, we need to go start with Mr. Johnny Cordell, the superintendent, and we'll let him go from there." So we went on up to superintendent's office, and he seen us right away. We went right in and talked to him and told him our plans and thoughts and shared them. And so from just thinking about it, from just a small, it's grown into what it is, one of the most beautiful parks, I think, in the state and probably in the southern United States. And it's not finished. There's more to do, and we'll make sure it gets finished. A lot of work, though. Those guys and ladies have put tremendous amount of hours and time into it. I have not put as much as I would have liked to because I'm spread a little thin, but they just, I mean, they took the ball and ran with it, and it's way more beautiful than I could ever even imagine what it, I mean, just didn't imagine it looking like that.
What are some of the future plans for it?
We are still in the process of getting a helicopter, and that will balance out. There will be the plane and the helicopter probably turned in, maybe, you know, facing out like this and inward, and also some big guns, hopefully a couple of them to go underneath. You know, we'd like to have a tank, but I don't know that that's going to happen, but we're not going to give up on the helicopter and the guns. So. I would like to see some more donations come in. There's not been any government funding that's went into this project. It's all by private individuals, and that's what really makes it unique. It is the People's Monument Memorial, and I guess we really lean toward doing that, where when it is finished, you can say there's not one penny of government funding, you know, went into this project. It's all been because of the people and for the people. all the way back to the Civil War and the Spanish-American War. I know the McWilliams that were on there were dear family friends, and I actually met the son, Charlie McWilliams, and lived next door to him for many years there before he passed away. And and his father, Samuel McWilliams, was in the Civil War, and then he was also in the Spanish-American War.
You may not know is on the Desert Storm or the Persian Gulf War, I also had my son on there too. We served. We didn't serve in the same unit, but we were in close proximity that I was able to visit him from time to time. So really unusual to have a father-son in a war. My great-grandfather and his oldest son served together in the Civil War. My side of the family, my direct side of the family was Unionist. And I have other grandparents that were Confederate that are on the wall down there. I know one of my grandparents, great-grandfather, was a Confederate. He was at Shiloh and Vicksburg. He died at Vicksburg. It was $100, although there are a lot of folks that are not here anymore because it starts from the Revolutionary War.
Right.
So we had a committee also that worked on that. James McLean we got him appointed by the county commission to be able to get the DD 214s, which is your service when you leave the service. That's the form they use, separation from service. And a lot of those are logged in at the courthouse.
Didn't know that.
And he was, and not just anybody can look at those. You have to have a special. So he was able to do that and get copies of all those. And those that didn't have family or anything, then they went on free of charge. That's why we had the $100. Not only to help pay. I mean, it doesn't cost $100 to engrave your name, but it cost. We put a lot of names on there that were not paid for because they're not here. The family's not here. Now, those that had family here, especially in the later years of World War II and Vietnam and so forth, if they were alive, we expected them to pay. There was some circumstances where they were not able to, financially, weren't able to do that. We had other members to cover that. So I know I probably paid for several over the course of time that weren't able to do that. So.
Well, nice of you.
And then we have the memorial bricks, which is also a fundraiser.
Right.
And we have space for about 400, and I think we've already sold well over 200, 250. So we still have some room there if you want to publicize that. We have, the last names are going on. We had some mistakes, so we had to correct those. And about the way to correct them is just put the name on there again. So we had to do that, and hopefully that'll finish off. In the future, as we add names, that might be something you all can do as you take a survey. There's some question of what to do because we've run out of space. It's very expensive to extend the walls. There is my recommendation was to go to a thinner granite and bolt it to the back, since there's a wide sidewalk back there, and maybe do something similar on the back. Some have suggested that we just put them out there in front of the monument or somewhere, stick them up in the ground. I think most veterans, and that's something you all can maybe take a survey on.
Oh, definitely,
Any veterans are not on the wall, would they rather be put out on a separate monument somewhere on the grounds, or would they rather be on the wall? And if you put it on the wall, it would start from this parking lot side, so actually be the first thing you'd see when you walked up there. proof that you have to be on the wall comes from your DD 214 or separation of papers. And obviously, we don't have any DD 214s for Civil War and Revolutionary
Right.
War. We took those from records and tombstones. And Civil War, we really didn't have enough information to determine where all of them were either Union or Confederate. It's a little sketchy sometimes, since some of the Confederates at the end switched over and fought for the Union. So we just put them all on there as best we could do, either from some type of historical record or tombstones for the most part. And to be on the wall, you have to have that, the DD 214, or in some cases, if we have eyewitness reports, it's like in Vietnam, there may be some folks that are not here anymore, they're gone or they died and we don't know anything about them, the family. In some cases, we've had some eyewitness reports of people that we know and we
Yes,
can
sir,
verify. Like that I actually saw them in country in Vietnam. I know I've had to verify a couple in Desert Storm that said, well, we don't have a DD 214. And I said, who are they? And I said, well, I actually saw them there physically. So we will accept eyewitness verifications. And some people lose their DD 214s, and they're really hard to. We have a form you can fill out, but it's very difficult, and particularly World War II, since a lot of the records, they had a fire in St. Louis or Kansas City, wherever they keep those records. They had a fire, and a lot of them were destroyed. Does it matter if they're armed or disarmed or discharged? The committee's take on that, if they're disarmed or discharged, they do not qualify for the wall. Now, there are discharges other than disarmable and honorable. There's lots of discharges. There's general discharges, medical. There's all kinds of discharges. We will accept a general discharge because a general discharge usually reverts to honorable after certainly at the time. Well, it's historical. I think more for your family, not necessarily for me. I know when I talked with some of the individuals that I know about putting their name on the wall, of course you had to pay $100 if you could afford that. And some said, well, I don't have any desire to put my name on there. And I said, well, it's not about you. It's about your kids and grandkids. And when I explained to them about it in that context, they usually were pretty amenable to do it from that point.